Welcome or welcome back to just one more row, a little crafting vlog we got going on here. And so I'm getting ready to start on a new project, which is going to be lining this crochet dress, which I've already shown in previous episodes. It is a very beautiful dress, but is very lacy and thus very see-through. So what I have done is I have gone to Mood Fabrics and I have downloaded their pattern for the brassiere dress, as you can see here. And go to their website. You should be able to find this dress fairly easily in their free pattern sections. This is a completely free pattern. Follow the instructions and you can download the pattern. When you get these, it will be a PDF pattern. Be sure to print out the first page, make sure that your sizing is correct, print out the rest of the pages. The next step with this is that I need to tape everything together and cut everything out at my size. So that's the next step there. The fabric that I'm going to be using is not very exciting. It is just a basic quilting cotton in this kind of deep slate gray color. Like I said, it's not very exciting. I got it at my local fabric store and I think I've got 3 yards. So this should be more than enough. But my fabric has been all pre-washed and then I need to iron it and then lay it all out so that once I have my pattern cut out, I can then cut it out here. Some of the things I'm going to need, obviously for this you will need tape to tape things together. Your scissors. I have paper scissors, fabric scissors, ne'er the two shall meet. And then your normal things such as pencils or other marking device. This is just a basic colored pencil in white and it will wash out. It does not leave any ick on my iron. Very important. I am trying a new thread here. This is Coats & Clark. I picked up this one because it is 100% cotton. I am trying going forward to not buy anything that is not 100% natural fibers. So 100% cotton. And then you have things like your measuring tape, because for this you will need your measurements. So go ahead and take those before you cut out the pattern in your size. So have the measuring tape. I've already got my measurements, so there's that aspect. And then I have my little cup of stuff. So I've got, you know, my needles, my thimble, my little teeny snipper thread, my little teeny snipper scissors for any fine detail work. Now I will say for this pattern I'm going to do a couple things that are a little bit different. I am not going to be adding sleeves because this dress here is very short sleeved and the sleeves for the brassiere dress are very straight and the sleeves for my pink crochet dress are very puffy. So I will not be adding sleeves and I may need to adjust the neckline, we're going to see. But yeah. So let me get to taping everything together and cutting stuff out, and I will be back to talk to you when I have completed that. All right, bye. Okay. So here are all the pieces for the dress. They're all cut out and everything. I'm doing the largest size. This goes up just to a size 22, but I'm doing the largest size. If I need to make anything smaller, it is much easier to remove fabric than it is to add fabric in. That is my thought process there. There's a few things I want to talk about. So first things first, that you will notice that this says bodice back, cut 2. That I think is a typo on the pattern. Based on the blog and reading through the comments on the blog on moodfabrics.com, this is supposed to be cut on the fold. Cut 2 is only if you're doing this in a non-stretch fabric to allow you to put in a zipper and or other back closure. And you would have to add in a half an inch of seam allowance. Because I'm doing this as a lining, I'm willing to bet that I'm going to need to change this neckline. So I'm not worried about it right now. But just so you know, this is supposed to be cut on the fold. Okay. Next we have the bodice front. This one does correctly say that it is cut on the fold of the fabric. I've already come through and punched out my little hole for my dart right there, the apex. And I've already marked my darts, as you can see here with my white colored pencil. And I marked them on both sides. My next step for the front is to go ahead and sew these darts together. Then I will sew the sides together over here. And then I'm going to baste this shoulder seam together. And I'm going to try this bodice part on with the pink crochet dress in case I need to make any modifications to the neckline. So I'm going to have to go a little off script with this. I'm already going off script in that I have no sleeves. So we'll be doing some fit issues there, because I know that there will be fit issues. This dress was not designed to be a lining. It was designed to be its own dress. I am modifying it to be a lining. Okay. And the last bit here is the skirt, which, as you can tell, if my camera will cooperate with me, is not exactly small. This is supposed to be part of like a circle skirt sort of setup. And I will let you know right now, double check your fabric. My fabric was 45 inches wide and this skirt would not fit on it. I am doing the largest size, so it may, I don't even think it would fit for other sizes. My fabric was 45 inches wide, and this pattern piece did not fit on the fabric if I place it on the fold like the pattern says I am supposed to. I tried a couple different variations of folding and other textile origami and simply could not get it to fit. So as a solution, what I will be doing with this is I will be making the skirt in two parts. So this will have a seam in the front and the back. Although I may twist it so it's on the side, I don't know yet. But there will be two seams in it. And what I've done is where it says cut on fold, I have added 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is the seam allowance for the rest of the dress, to that particular edge. And then I had to kind of cut it out at a weird angle with my fabric all doubled up. And those are my skirt pieces. So technically there's only four pieces for this entire thing. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and put these darts together, and I will come back when we are going to be looking at any fit issues for the bodice top. Hey everybody. So I have all of my pieces all cut out. As you can see right here, this is the skirt. And I have some of the basic seaming done, and then I have some of the finishing about halfway done. And I wanted to give you a quick update as to where I'm at. So as I said earlier, this pattern for the skirt was too wide to fit on this particular fabric by like literally 2 inches. So I ended up deciding to cut out the skirt in pieces. So I have a front and a back. I have seamed both sides together. And what I have done to finish off the edge, I have taken over here, folded my seam allowance in half and then in half again, pressed it down, and then I'm going to basically slip stitch all of this in place so that I have a nice flat edge that completely encases any raw edges there. And not only do I think that looks nicer, it's not going to have anything potentially rubbing up against my legs, and I'm not worried about fraying. When I'm done, my seam should look approximately like this, minus these little ends that I need to work back in. So this is the inside. And you can see it is very flat. Everything is all encased. Now on the outside, ooh, that's some dust. It looks approximately like this. If my thread was a better match, it would be virtually invisible. I have another dress that I did this on with the lining, and that was black thread on black fabric, and unless you know what you're looking for, you can't really see this at all. So what I did was picked up about 2 or 3 threads on the side of the fabric, and then I'm slip stitching it to my folded over seamed edge. So that's a very simple thing for the skirt. Getting to the bodice top, here's where things, oops. So getting to the bodice top, this is where things get a little bit more complicated if I can lay this out one-handed. So I have my darts all sewn in. This is the outside, the right side of the fabric, if you will. And there are my little tiny darts right there. They are all sewn in and the top is finished. So you will see over here, I had to make several modifications to this. One, I widened the neck by over 1 inch, and I had to bring in the shoulder seams by 1 inch as well. And this is not a pattern problem. This is getting it to fit inside of the crochet dress problem. The sleeves on that, the shoulder seams are very narrow, and so I had to kind of compensate for that. And this neckline needed to be wider. The way it was in the pattern would not fit over my head at all. So I had to widen it, if for no other reason than just to get it on over my head. So you can see here how my edges are are raw. And I'm doing the same thing to these seams. Okay, you can see it there. And there's the finished seam over here that I did to the skirt. Take my seam allowance, fold it over twice, slip stitch it in place, and here you can see that's done. I'm also doing that up here to the shoulders. There we go. Now you can actually see that. Huzzah! All right. So you'll notice this little wrinkly bit over here. And the reason for that is that it has a very not greatly well done facing, quite frankly. Essentially, I did not want to have a raw edge over here. So I took, and this is done on grain. It's not on the bias. But I cut some of these, and you can actually see here I have a little bit extra. So it says cut on grain, not on bias, because I didn't necessarily want it to stretch, and I'll explain why. And then I've just folded the two edges in. So this is, 2-inch wide strip, fold it in 1/2 inch, fold it in 1/2 inch. This side is 1 inch, so that I have finished edges on both sides. Then I took and laid right side together like you see with the collar facing up here, sewed it, turned everything in, ironed it as flat as I could, slip stitch along this edge, which you can kind of see little pinpricks right here, just like I've done for the side. And then I it's dust. And then I kind of gathered and let it pucker as needed, so that it would fit. Now, part of this is that my armholes on the crochet dress are much smaller than the armholes are here. So I didn't necessarily want this to spread out a whole lot more than it is now, just because then I would end up having to pull this edge up, and it would mess with how the rest of the dress is going to lay. And this is going to be on the inside, so I am not as concerned about this part right here. Going forward, I would just plan to do the lining as I'm making the dress, not try to retrofit a dress, a lining into a dress. Okay. But you can kind of see here what the finished product, if I can stand up straight, is supposed to look like. It's just supposed to be folded over. It encases that raw edge because all of these seams right here have got to be clipped to allow for a curve. Otherwise, this would look really weird. And just encases it there. And again, there's nothing that could possibly be itchy. I'm not worried about fraying or anything like that. And to get some nice crisp edges, I do recommend to get like that. Press as you go, like iron, 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 iron. Up here for the neck, I'm doing an actual facing because I need this to lay flat. So how I made these, which are not part of the original pattern at all, I traced, there's the back, here's the front, which is where I'm at. I traced this neck edge on a sheet of paper. I have added in a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is the same amount of seam allowance that is for the rest of the garment, and then just cut it on the fold so both sides are even. And I did one for the front, I did one for the back because these are two different curves. Then I am pinning right sides together. I will sew along this pinned line, which you may not be able to see very well, but there actually is a little drawn in line right there. I will sew along that line, clip this curve, flip it to the inside, turn this whole thing, and then I will kind of turn this up, clip little notches in here as best I can, turn it up, and then stitch it down. And that's going to be my neck facing so that I have a nice encased edge here. It's not raw. I just think it looks better. And from there, then I just need to attach the bodice to the skirt, hem the bottom of the skirt, and then sew the whole thing into the pink crochet dress. So those are my next steps. But I just wanted to give you a quick update on where I'm at because there's a lot of half done stuff. Okay, last time you saw I hadn't finished putting the neck facing on, so that's all sewn down, and both of my little arm facings are sewn down so that all of my raw edges are completely encased. I've gone ahead and sewn together the waistband, and I've slip stitched the bottom here the same way I did up here. The top here, you can see I've just gone ahead and ironed and pinned in place. The back is not nearly as pretty. Ooh, losing pins. The back, as you can tell, is not nearly as pretty. I did have to gather this part down to fit into this waistband. I don't necessarily think that's a problem with the pattern itself because in the original, this skirt was supposed to be one piece and I broke it up into two. I matched up my side seams. And so if you follow the pattern as it's supposed to be done, you should be able to ease this a little bit more with the skirt. Like I said, I was not able to do that, so I kind of, the great words of Tim Gunn, I made it work. So I gathered down just a smidge in the back, which makes this folding up process interesting. So what I need to do next, I need to go ahead and slip stitch this edge down. Down here at the hem, I'm going to do something that's a little bit more like a rolled hem. So I have measured 1/2 inch from this edge and then folded my edge here to meet, so it's about 1/4 inch there. I'm going to do a basic running stitch down this, then I will iron it so it's very flat, roll this up and slip stitch along this edge here. So it will basically create a rolled hem, and then I'll just need to put it into the dress. So that's where we're at so far. Hi! So, I finally got the pink dress finished. And I wanted to go ahead and give you some final thoughts on this. So I finished up the pink dress and I've added in the gray lining to this. I used Mood Society's Brassiere dress, to which I made some pretty heavy modifications and alterations. So kind of keep that in mind when I'm talking about some of the finished product for this. The first thing I will point out about this particular pattern is that it is exactly what it is advertised as. It is a very simple, straightforward dress that should have sleeves in it. Mine does not, with very few pattern pieces. That is exactly what it is advertised as, and that is what you get. I made lots of alterations to it, so that does kind of shadow or overshadow some of my thoughts and critiques. But the other thing I will say about this pattern is that the photography and advertising on it is absolutely beautiful, and I got suckered in and wanted to be the person wearing the dress in this advertising rather than wanting the dress. It's a subtle yet really important difference. Because quite frankly, the pattern that I had for this particular dress, I don't think was the best for what I wanted to do. And I didn't make some alterations that I feel I should have. So for Mood Fabrics and their patterns, many of them are set up with a large bust to waist ratio. So that if you have a larger bust and a smaller waist, so I think it's like 9 inches or something difference between the two. Spoiler alert, I don't have that kind of ratio, so the top half of an outfit and the bottom half of an outfit are actually going to be 2 separate distinct sizes. Now, I looked at what the finished measurement should be, and I decided to go with doing everything in one size rather than breaking it up and having the bottom section be the size that would fit and the top section be the other size that would fit. I didn't do that, and I should have. And I feel like that kind of shows through in a lot of my work here. This dress is supposed to have sleeves, which I omitted. That's totally cool. And then I decided to add in sleeve facings. And got an interesting crash course in how to do and how not to do them. The same thing with the neck. I kind of learned a bit about how to and how not to do something. The facings for the neck and the sleeves are not in the pattern. So that was an interesting learning curve. There's lots of learning on this. Even though I'm not really happy with how it turned out at the end, I feel that it was still super valuable because I learned as much as I did. I got to practice my finishing off my seams on the inside of a dress so that they're all encased, and because I really like that. It's one of those details like nobody's going to see but me and you guys since I show you, but I know that it's there, and this gives me a great chance to practice those, and I did, and I'm pretty proud of how they turned out. I learned about, like I said, facings, when I should do alterations, getting over the fear of changing up what's there, figuring out how to take an existing garment and then add a lining in using 2 very different crafts in order to do it. It was a great thing to learn. I'll still probably remake the inside of this and in something that's going to fit a little bit better. And work on giving me the finished result that I would like. So yeah, that's kind of the thoughts there. Anyway, thanks for sticking around this long, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!